Hi, I'm Tony DUrso. I am an author and podcast host of the #1 show on the entire VoiceAmerica Network. I get about 100,000 downloads a week. I am pushing 7 million total downloads. I've done this for just a few years only. I've learned some things that I put together in the Vision Map. And if you want to get off that couch, if you want to stop watching TV all day and actually accomplish something really, really great, if you want a little bit more goodness coming in your life, if you want things to come easier so you can sit on that couch more often, then you got to check this out. Learn about the Vision Map. I give you a couple steps that are going to change your life or your money back, double your money back. Stay tuned for more.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dov Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, part of the Full Monty interview series. I'm your host, Dov Baron, founder of Full Monty Leadership, and I'm here to assist you tapping into the one thing in your business that changes everything. You can find out more at FullMontyLeadership.com. Let me ask you, in what ways do you need to up-level your leadership? Do you have a map to get to your vision? Or is it just an idea that you're hoping will become real? Stay tuned, we're about to find out. Remember, you can chat about this episode or any past episodes in our Facebook and LinkedIn groups. Just look for the Leadership and Loyalty podcast. If you're a new listener, new viewer, thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in. We're about to go full Monty. As always, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you tune into podcasts. We always need your help in staying relevant, so please go over there and review if you like. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show because we always need your help in staying relevant. You can catch us on traditional radio stations across the United States every Monday and Thursday. You can also look for where there's over 100,000 subscribers. And if you are a regular listener, big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners with a potential reach of 2.5 to 4 million listeners for every single show. We're honored and grateful to be cited by Inc.com as the #1 podcast to make you a better leader. You can also Google us or Alexa us by saying play Dov Baron podcast. Again, thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. I'm also here today with my co-host on this episode, Mr. Joel Bauer. Joel is a high-paid consultant influence whisperer, helping business owners and thought leaders to find what's stopping them and turning it into their greatest advantage. His companies have helped many entrepreneurs build million-dollar brands from scratch. He also runs high-end private workshops and masterminds. You can find out more about him and his latest projects at joelbauer.com. That's JOELBOWER.com. All right, back to the show. Let's strip it down and dive right in. If you're a leader in any way, you are expected to create and hold a vision for those that you lead. But oftentimes, those same leaders lack a vision for themselves. What's more, even if they do have a vision, they have no real map for getting there. Do you have a highly effective and strategic map to get you where you want to go? Well, let's find out together. Our guest on this episode is a speed typist, business leader, author, and podcast host of the #1 talk show on the entire Voice America Network. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Tony DUrso.
Well, thank you very much, Dov. You actually pronounced my name correctly, which is really great. And by the way, for the audience, I've had the pleasure, the great distinction and honor of having Dov on my show before. And I kept having him back on because I couldn't pronounce his name right. So I said, we're going to do it again.
It's the way I get rebooked. I embarrass everybody by saying my name wrong. And then you have to book me back so you can say it right.
It's actually Dov, but he pretends it's not. So
exactly. It's the only way I can get work.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here on your show. It is a great show. It's the #1 show, I believe, on the Inc. list. It is fantastic. Thank you. The honor really is mine. I'm happy to be here, and I have some good information based on years and years of experience, as well as what I've done to build my empire. And I really look forward to sharing a lot of this with your audience today, Dav.
Fabulous. Well, let's start where we like to start, which is, tell us, Tony, what do you find yourself most curious about these days?
I have no idea. That's a great question. I am not prepared for that. And I've never been asked. What am I most curious about? I think I've answered everything except for how great is God? Now, let me explain. This is not a religious show. One of my pastimes, one of my hobbies is the spiritual nature of man. Where do we come from? And I've literally studied the world's religions. You call it a hobby, but that's not quite the right word. I've studied the world's religions at least 2 times, and I'm going through another pass. I read books, I study, and it's just something that's like, you know, I don't watch TV or anything. It's just what I love to do. So I'm very curious. How do we get created? How come I'm me? How am I me? So these are just great questions. And of course, we have to bring things down now to earth and be successful in the journey to success. But I believe some of that has helped perhaps make it easier for me to put things together, because I've built what I've built very, very rapidly, and I've written a map for it to help people. And I think some of my religious studies, my spiritual studies have kind of helped inspire me and open up some doors for this.
When you think about your spiritual studies, and in the context of success, where do you see that those two things have aligned for you?
That is such a great question. I think the more I study religion and work out God and who is God and how great God is, first of all, the smaller I seem to become, the more I'm like an ant in this cosmos. If you think of how many beings he's created, how big is this universe? How many worlds has he created? How many lands? How many people? It's mind-boggling. I cannot just get that in my head. So the more I study, the less I seem to know, the more I want to know.
How does it align with your pursuit of success? And for that matter, leadership?
I have an answer that I've never told anybody. That is my epiphany. When you follow God's will, when you do what he wants you to do, when he set aside for you, everything opens magically. When there's an obstacle in your life, a travail, something wrong, something bad, we call that pain. That's God giving you a hard stare, trying to get you on that right path. And when things just, doors open, deals come, this opens, it's because you're on the right path of what God wants. So by following what God wants and trying more and more to understand what God wants from me, and I know it sounds kind of different because this is a business show, but it's just so true. The more I feel I'm aligned with God, the creator, the easier everything seems to become. And I'm like at that point in my life where all I want to do is help people. I help people with the VisionMAP. I help the homeless in my area. I've got my book I give out free. I give lectures, I give talks. I just want to help because it's infectious. I believe you know this only too well, Dov. The more you give, the more you want to give, the more that you get, but never put your attention on getting. You just want to give, and it just keeps coming and keeps coming. So that's how you're going to grow your business, folks. I've got some really good information. I really look forward to sharing with your audience today.
Good. Joel, you want to jump in on that?
I do, yeah. So whenever I
can see you twitching.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I'm engaged. I'm excited. I'm like, this is cool. It's interesting. Let's go. Where are we going? And then, but like when I look at vision, when I see anything about vision, it's like, it's almost dime a dozen someone's talking about vision. It's like, it's so to the point where people don't really have visions because they're just tired of the word, like they're just tired of hearing it. What is so unique about the process you have or insights you have that really can open that word to where it's meaningful for businesses, not just another thing that they have to do?
Thank you so much, Joel, for asking that question. That is absolutely amazing. Dear ladies and gentlemen in the audience, you've heard words called tire, windshield, a steering wheel, a dashboard, engine. You've heard these words. You hear them all the time, but that doesn't mean you know how to build a car. I invite anybody in this audience to go to your garage and build a car. Go outside, go in your backyard, build a car. And I mean, build it. Pour the tires, make the steel belts, make the radial, make the engine. You cannot do that in your entire life. You have to go buy the parts. You have to go get that from somewhere else. And then what does that do? That's just a vehicle to get you to where you're going, the whole thing. Most of you don't even think about these things of maintenance and oil change in the engine. You just get in your car and you go to where it wants to go. Well, the same thing with the vision map. Yes, you've heard these words. I'm going to give you words, but I'm going to drill down what they mean, how to use it, so that you can just get in your car and go to your destination. And if you want, I was inspired. I've, graduated in university. I got a nice distinction there called summa cum laude. It's kind of rare. And I studied business, and I've been through all sorts of plans and stuff for business and vision and just trying to put it all together. And it was when I read a book called Beach Money by Jordan Adler that changed my life. And just really fast, Jordan Adler, at one point in this time, chapter 2 and 3, folks, you got to get this book. And in fact, you got to get his audio, because when you hear the author speak out his book, it changes things. And just really, really fast, he was broke. He didn't have a house. His life was a disaster. Didn't have a girlfriend, a wife. He was just a mess. And what did he do? He went out into the park and he spent all day, all afternoon writing, what does he see the future? And what he did is he went into the future and he looked back and goes, this is what I should be doing. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Okay. And then he forgot about it. Fast forward a couple years later, he was moving one day. And in the moving process, he picked up this document. He saw it. It was like that document that he wrote, his vision. And he sat down and cried, guys. He sat down and cried. You know why? Because he was moving into his brand new house. He had the girl of his dreams. And at that time, he was making $100,000 a month. Okay, I'm sure there's people in the audience this day, $100,000 a year is great. This was a month. And I took that and I tore it apart. I expanded it. I did a deep dive, and I realized that the rest of the plan, which obviously he did, wasn't there in his book. And I wrote out this entire vision map. But I didn't stop there. I then did that in a new field I've never been in before, podcasting. Fast forward a couple years, I'm pushing 7 million downloads. I'm the #1 show in the entire Voice America Network. My available audience, doesn't mean who's listening, but the available platform, it's like 7 million people. And I'm getting like 100,000 downloads a week. This is like crazy. And it's because of the vision map. And I'm going to teach everyone, I'm going to give you all a crash course on this. No airy fairy, the real thing. And of course, yes, I do give away my book for free.
So what's the #1 thing people are missing about this when it comes to understanding vision?
As I mentioned, you got to put yourself in the future, look back, and you got to go, it's like, what do you see yourself doing? That's D as in David. What are you doing? You set aside your past failures. I wish I was doing this. I wish I was doing that, or I can't do this. Set aside all that. What do you really, really love and you want to see yourself doing in the future? Call it play, call it pretend, call it I'm dreaming, but it starts there with this idea. What are you doing? And you're going to make this decision that this is what you want to do. And you write it out. It's one sentence. It's not a whole big thing, but that one sentence could take you a day or so to really work out what you would love doing. It's not what you're doing now necessarily. It's what you really want to be doing. For me, it was, I'm podcasting, I'm interviewing world famous people. I'm doing talks. I'm doing the circuit. I'm a guest speaker. I wrote this out, but I just didn't write the words. I thought it really through really hard, and I came up with the vision. Now, the vision map, folks, is like an upside down pyramid. The long flat edge, that's the vision. It's a big, broad vision. And I'm going to help drill this all the way down, all the steps with you. But that is the first thing, Dav, is what are you doing or should be doing? And you're looking in the future, back at the past, like as if you've already done it, because that really helps a lot.
I would love to hear, the stages and give people like, what is a quick process that you're leading to that. But I wanted to point out one other thing, because you said something that I rarely hear. And it's something that I do myself because it is so important. It's hearing the author's voice. So many people, like, you don't realize how much you learn from the person who actually created it. It's so easy, like, especially with audiobooks, a lot of people don't record their own books. But there is a level that's lost. And I almost always look for audiobooks and I go, is the author actually reading this? Because there's something in the intonation of someone who believes it, who created this, that's not there when you just listen to someone else record it. Not always. Maybe if that person's engaged in the work, maybe, but not always.
You know what, Joel, on that, I have an audiobook of the VisionMAP. And in that, I give more information, because when I'm reading, I go, oh, by the way, this, by the way, that. And I give more information that's not even in the written. So yes, that happens when the author reads it.
Yeah.
Tony, one of the things I want to bring up here, sort of to help people have a context of this, there's a lot of talk these days about immigrants coming to America, and a variety of opinions about that, some of which I think are a little crazy, and some of them I think are, they are what they are.
I'm one.
And you are from a Sicilian immigrant family. So when you think about, when I think about that, and I think about the heritage of that, my family were Russian immigrants to the country they went to, on one side at least. And so when you think about that person who, decades ago, maybe even hundreds of years ago, depending on where they're from, left everything behind to go live in another country. I know I've done it twice. To go to live in another country, a country they don't know, to start something brand new and fresh. It's very interesting to me that you come from this Sicilian immigrant family and you're talking about this vision map, but in fact, I think in many ways that's in the DNA of your heritage. Have you thought about that?
Maybe no. I have 6 brothers and, excuse me, 5. There's 6 of us. I'm always saying there's 6 of us. But everyone has a different career path and everyone has wound up differently in life. One has actually passed away. So yes, it's in the DNA a little bit, but I think it's also sometimes what you do with the opportunity and how you do what you're doing with the opportunity, Dav, that really sets it apart. I've interviewed some immigrants who they're multi-billionaires or millionaires. It really is dependent on what you do. And I know you hear this, it's cliche, but you really got to focus down on that work ethic. I mean, and it's just the nature of the being. And I think that's part of this DNA that you're referring to. For example, for 10 years, I worked as a paper out boy in the freezing, frigid, 7-day-a-week cold of Chicago, getting up at, it hurts my ears, 4:30 in the morning, getting up, delivering papers on Lakeshore Drive. You guys try that in the winter, that it goes through your clothes. You wear 3 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of pants, 3 shirts, a sweatshirt and a jacket, 2 pairs of gloves, and the wind just goes right through it, freezes you cold. I did that for 10 years, and every week, the pittance that I had, I just gave to my parents. I never thought of, I should keep this. Or what am I going to do with it? My parents needed it because my dad was supporting the whole family, 8 of us, on his one paycheck. It's like crazy. So I think that helped start it. Fortunately, I didn't have these other crazy ideas of, hey, I should do this with my money. And I learned the value of a dollar, and I learned that money is necessary to support yourself. I know this sounds really weird and basic, but when you get that in, like, I know the value of a dollar. Yes, I give a lot. I help the homeless in my area, but to me, a dollar still has tremendous value. It's not like something to throw away. And I think you kind of build that. God, we're talking about God a bit. He gives that to you, but it's your choice whether you walk those steps or not. And fortunately, I walked those steps and I learned and got involved in a bigger work ethic culture. I'm only saying that now that I'm looking back over the years. I wouldn't have said that back then.
No, but what I'm saying is that your father must have created some psychological vision map inside of his mind in order to immigrate from Sicily. And I think that is part of what happens for immigrants, is they create a picture that often people who are native to their country don't. And that, so this is why we know the results are there clearly, that immigrants tend to do better than natively born people. And the reason is because they're creating a vision that is beyond anything they know right now. And so it's interesting to me that it's the essence of where you've come from historically, and now you're helping other people to do that. So it's pretty cool.
1,000,000,000% correct, Dov. 1,000,000,000%, because that immigrant doesn't have what you have here in the United States, for example, doesn't have it and wants it and strives and works harder. In America, I see too many people, I'm going to be very kind, they're entitled, give this to me, I should have this, give this to me, give this to me, but not do the work or just slough it off. I can't tell you the craziness of people. Just they put in their time, they're there, they clock in, and they want to be paid, but they didn't produce anything. It's not so for that immigrant, because he doesn't have that, so he will work harder. So yes, that was instilled in me. Absolutely. Very good point, Dov. You're good at this.
That's the point, is that, and it's addressing what Joel was saying a few minutes ago, is that, I think that the visioning has become pretty much like the law of attraction. I can just sit around, think about it, and everything's going to be okay. That's not how it works. And that's why one of the things I find so interesting about this connection with the immigrant thing is that there's a vision, but there's also a ton of action. There's a ton of commitment. There's that work ethic, and that is what's vitally important. So, attraction has the word action in it on purpose, because you got to take some, right?
By itself, it's pointless. It's worthless. Just having a vision, you're going to stay in bed all day, sit on the couch, watch TV all day. The vision does nothing.
Right. So Joel was asking earlier, and I'm going to give you a chance to come back on that, Joel, which was to asking about some of the specific steps. What was it you were wanting to know there, Joel?
Yeah, when you come down to it, like anything like this, if what is unique, like take us through a process of what that looks like. Maybe use as the example of when you were designing your vision for the podcast, and what did you actually do? What was the process? How did you bring that down through your steps, and kind of show us how you take someone through the vision?
Sure. So the first top thing is the vision, and then right below that is the purpose. And by the way, vision, just for the audience, the visionary says that the vision is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. That's what a vision really is. So now below that is your purpose. Some people put purpose on top, but I've really worked it out back and forth both ways. I find purpose goes next. Purpose, per the dictionary, is the reason for which something is done or created. It's why you do what you do, or for that hobby you have, or you like to go jogging in the morning. It's what gets you out of bed, whether you get paid or not, whether that's your job or not. It's what you love to do. There's your purpose that goes right underneath. And so the purpose, the way I put it, is what are you being? Who are you being? Be as in boy. It's a being word. I'm being this, I'm being that. And it's just a one sentence. And when I worked out my podcast, it was like, well, I'm going to be a facilitator. I'm going to connect well-known people that are really good at business, because I didn't know anybody. I had zero audience, and I didn't know any elite entrepreneurs, nobody. But it was my vision, I was going to connect these great people with the world, because face it, everybody listening to this right now, you cannot possibly read every single book, listen to every audio book, watch every video, watch every podcast, listen to every show about business. It's impossible. So you need people like Dov, you need people like me to take some of the good people or good knowledge or good experience as fast as we can, and give that to you to make it easier for you, because we want to see you successful. So I kind of put that together, that this would be something to do, because prior, I made so much money for so many people doing marketing and stuff. It was crazy. And I was thinking, I could really help a lot of people with my knowledge and skills. So let's be this facilitator, this communicator. So then there's purpose. And then underneath that, the three little trifectas here is what I call, Joel and Dov, the long-term objective. Now, you can, as soon as you hear the definition, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's a goal, because the dictionary says it's something that you shoot for. It is a goal in a way, but too many people have goal confused. It's something they think it's you do in one day, a week, a month, a year. It's something you shoot in the net. A goal is different for so many people. 100 years ago, companies and corporations had like a 15 or 20-year plan of what they were going to accomplish. That was their goal. It's different now. So I call it a long-term objective, and it's something you do in 2 to 3 years, just a couple years. I completed my vision map in just a couple years and created this empire. I was like, just astonished. And I put in there, I'm going to do a show a week, and I'm going to write a book, and which became a bestseller on Amazon. I'm going to do lecture, and that is what you're going to accomplish. It's what you have. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. It's the accomplishment. So a goal is not, to me, that action. It's an objective. It's the long-term objective of what I'm going to accomplish. So I work that out. So there's vision, there's purpose, then there's the long-term objective in this V shape. And then underneath that, okay, I need a plan, a master plan. And the dictionary says it's a proposal for doing something or achieving something. And I looked at it, and I've been to many schools, I've been to college, university. We've worked out plans and all sorts of stuff. And I realized my master plan needed 2 things. I needed a strategy, and I needed a tactical. And I needed these. So I worked out the strategy. Soon you're going to see where the rubber meets the road here. The strategy is, let's go into a military sense. Oh, well, if we take this island, we can control this sea corridor, and keep the enemy at bay. So there's like a strategy here. We want this island. Okay. So you've got a strategy of how you're going to do it. And I have this whole strategy. How was I going to find people that I didn't even know to put on my show, and so I went to social media, and I started finding people like Dov that are posting, hey, this and this. And it's like, this is great stuff. I really fell in love with Dov on what he was saying. I invited him and said, hey, come on my show. This is brand new. So I started, so that was kind of part of my strategy. And below that, which I kind of jumped into, is where the rubber meets the road now, is the tactical. Here's where you get things out of your head. Okay, you want that island? You need that island? Yeah. How are you going to get it? What are the steps? And the dictionary says tactical, it puts it in a dictionary, military sense, that it's the actions that you have to engage in to accomplish your advantage. So I started working out the tactical, and I came up with this, things that I'm going to do over a year or 2.
Yeah.
And then you bring that down into your plan, your day, your week, your month. These you've all heard these words. But when you put it all together, like musical, like score, like it's symphonic, it starts working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to ask on that one, Joel?
No, I think people got a lot there. It's a real process. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to get in there, like you're saying, do the work. You got to be in there and doing that. It actually connects me to another question I had that came up earlier. You talked about it was through religion, but finding that path and feeling like you're kind of pulled into the work, and the things that open up the opportunity kind of almost tells you where to go. How do you separate that from, it's just hard to do and there's resistance personally for it? Not there's resistance overall. Like some things you want, some things that are even good for the world, there's challenge. There's going to be some adversity coming through it. So how do you distinguish the difference between feeling that there's a natural kind of path corridor for you, and just sometimes you got to get in and do the work to make those things happen, to realize these visions?
Well, if I understand the question correctly, first I do everything myself, get it all worked out, get it refined, and then I turn it over to a team or a VA or something like that. But if I meet so much resistance over and over and over and over and over again, I'm good at barreling through anything, but then it makes me reevaluate. Is this really right? Why am I having this resistance? Mm-hmm. I can just, bulldoze through anything like this, but and sometimes I drop an action because I realize it's the amount of effort. For example, going out of state to do a speech. There's time involved. I'm away from my show. I'm away from what I promote. There's costs involved. There's, and then there's time involved to get back in. If I go out even for a one-day event, it impacts me almost a week on both sides. And so I really have to evaluate, do I go? And I've decided to do less events this year just because it impacts me so much, because I do so much. So when there's a lot of obstacles, I just reevaluate, go back to your strategy and your vision and go, is this really needed, or is there another way to do it? Or why am I doing it? Why do I go to events? I've got a huge audience right here where I'm at. Why should I go to an event? So you kind of re-question that.
Yeah, that's a great thing. And I think the piece in there that always, when I'm working with clients, it seems to be a struggle is you have a willingness to, kind of like keep pushing to make it happen so that you get that feedback. I mean, if you came up to that thing and go, oh no, this is just a hard rock to move, I'm just going to give up, I'll just walk off. That if you did it like that, it's not going to, if people are not willing to jump in and push it, it's hard to get the same distinctions you're making about, is this really right for me? Did I give it a full attempt? Did I learn something from it? Because on the other side of like the events, when you have a very, very clear understanding, it makes sense to you because you went and did them and you got to see how your life reacted to it. So I think that there's a bit of an art to it. That's not just so much of a science. People like to use that all the time, like the secret. As long as I vision it, it'll magically come up to be. But no, you got to be willing to go kind of push into the world a little bit, and then and by that, then you can see these things happen.
There's a couple of pieces in there. That first of all is that if you are entrepreneurial, if you are a leader, there's a pretty good chance you have a decent work ethic. There's a pretty good chance that you have a pretty large amount of drive. There's a pretty good chance that you have an enormous amount of willpower. And there's a pretty good chance that all those things will shoot you in the foot. Right?
I'm glad you said pretty good, because I've worked with some leaders that had different ideas than the company. And so, yes, you're right.
But my point is that it's okay to have that, I'll drive through the wall if I need to. But the problem with that is you may not be taking in all the information. You may not be taking in all the data, because sometimes I think that life has a tendency, not that I personally know anything about it, but life has a tendency to slap us upside the head and say, pay attention, it's time to redirect. And you need a hard left or a hard right. And you're not actually on the right path. You're on a path that is your head and your ego and whatever it is. And there's a need for changing that. And then that brings us into the piece that I don't see as an art, but I do see as a science, a little bit varied there from what Joel was saying. And that is the understanding of what are my maxims. So it's fine to say, why would I go to the event? I've got an audience here. Great, that's true. But if your maxims are relationship, then you go, I'm going to the event because I love relationship. And that's one of my highest maxims in life, that I want connection. And I love the interaction and the flesh on flesh of shaking hands and hugging people and connecting. And that's why it matters. And you know what? If I do business, that's a bonus. And if I don't, it's okay, because it's that connection thing that I bring back to my show and I bring back to my relationships that advances me. And I'm not saying that that's right. I'm saying that that's one of my maxims. For somebody else, it's not. But you've got to look at and if you don't willing to, again, we're back to this piece that both you, Tony, and Joel just talked about, which is the willingness to drill down and say, does this really matter to me? Not should it matter to me, but does it? And if it doesn't, then maybe you need to stop doing that crap and get your focus on what really sets you on fire, because there's too many people who will want to put your fire out.
Right. And that rock, if that rock has to move, and it's important to the business, Joel, we move that rock. We don't take no ifs, ands, or buts. We just move it. If it's necessary to the strategy, to our overall vision, then we have to do that. Absolutely agreed.
So I was talking about a moment ago about how, you've got to find the thing that sets you on fire that will allow you to go through the walls if it's aligned. So what my question for you, Tony, is, because we all face it in life, at all kinds of levels, not just in business. Tell us about a situation where you had a vision, you had a drive to go towards something that you really wanted to go to, and someone or someones tried to put that fire out. They said, yeah, no, this is not for you. Can you tell us about an experience of that and how you got to trust or recognize that this is my fire and you don't get to put it out?
Well, I have multiple thoughts on that, multiple
I'm sure.
stories. One is a very sad story. One of the worst things that's ever happened to me when I started podcasting is I got hacked. I got hacked so bad. My shows were taken off the internet. The images were taken off the internet. I found out by accident. I would put something up and then something else would go. And there was this cat and mouse game for maybe 2 months, and I was distraught. Everything was gone. This was like in my first year or just after my first year. I had a couple 100,000 downloads. I was rocking and just everything's gone. I was so distraught that because I couldn't solve that issue so easily, I really thought about giving up because everything was gone. And it was my wife that said, she goes, Tony, you built it. You know how to do it. You can just build it again. And, because I bounce things off her and I ask her about stuff, and we have some good strategy meetings on that. And I thought, okay. And I did it. And I've been hacked 3 times in 4 years. I've had everything gone, everything taken, everything disappeared. I've had my URL. I'm getting 1 million visitors a year. It's going to somebody else to sell something. I've had all sorts of crazy things happen, but I'm still in it. I'm not giving up. So that was really sad. It was one of the worst things of my life. When you're building this baby and you see it just crumbling the story and you don't know how or why, it just really shocks your core.
Yeah. So, I mean, because this is one of the things that I think is really important for everybody to realize is that if there's something if there's a fire within you that you need to breathe on the world, somebody's going to come along with a wet blanket. It's just all there is to it. And you can use that wet blanket and dry it and use it as fuel, or you can allow it to put your fire out. And that's your choice. And any of us, and I'm not just talking about me or Joel or Tony, any of us who have had any level of success in our lives have had many, many wet blankets thrown on our fire, but we have to choose to say, you know what? No. And I think that's, again, be careful, because the response to that can be a willpower one, which is screw you, I'm going to make it happen. And that's not always a good thing, versus let me re-examine. Let me refine. Let me look at that and say, what's the new way? What's another way? How can I become better at this strategy? What's the new tactic I need to do if this is aligned with my purpose and my maxims and where I'm really going to?
It's very wise.
The other part of that is just, Tony, is like the importance of having someone in your life that stokes that fire, that doesn't just say, oh, okay, you're right. It is hard. You could give it up. Your wife being there at that moment, I'm sure, was significant. And how many people have that person or are seeking that person in their professional relationships or in their personal relationships. And that's just such a crucial thing. And so I guess I'll phrase that actually as a question. So how important has she been in your success and keeping on the path?
Well, Joel, thanks for asking. We've been together. This is our 28th year. I think that might give you an answer. She is the self-named. That means she named it herself. She calls me her wingman, my wingman. She's always looking out for my back. She knows things about shows and people and interviews and things I've forgotten. And all of a sudden, just out of the blue, she goes, when I'm trying to solve something, she goes, why don't you ask so-and-so about such and such? And I go, what a great idea. How did you know? She goes, I know. She goes, I'm your wingman. So I got lucky.
Awesome.
That's very cool. So,
and that was very, very wise what you just said there, Dav, just earlier. I just want to say that was very sage advice, and I really encourage your audience to listen to that again. That you just nailed it really well.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Tony. So when it comes to this understanding, I know that you have a process, and I know that you're going to give, actually, let's do that right now. Let's just give people access to, so they know to go there, and we'll bring it up again at the end. But how can people, because you have a vision map and people can go and get connected to that and your book, tell us a little bit about how they can get that.
Go to Tony DUrso.com. You'll see it right there at the very top of the website, or click on books. You'll download the vision map immediately. There is an audio reading, and I do give much more information. It's just a couple bucks. Highly recommend it, but you could just get the ebook free, and it's got a lot of information. It's got a lot more than what's in this interview right now, because it's pages and pages and pages long. I really go into a lot of stuff. So yeah, just TonyDUrso.com. Thank you for that plug.
Absolutely. And as I said, we'll give that out again at the end, and we'll certainly put it into the show notes. So, one of the questions I asked just a few minutes ago, and I still don't think we got clear on it yet, which is, what is the biggest misconcept about what it is you do? What is the biggest misunderstanding of what it is you're doing? So, obviously you've built this podcast and media platform, which is wonderful. Do people look at you and say, okay, so Tony is the guy who's, leading the way, because this is about leadership, leading the way from a place of building a media platform, or are people looking at you for Tony is the guy in helping me to understand how to actually build a vision to anything I want to go to?
I hope that my legacy is the latter, that the vision map helps people in their career, in their relationship, in business, in anything. It doesn't matter if you've ever failed or at anything or not. And by the way, I've interviewed like 500 world well-known people. They've all had failures. They've all had mishaps. Nobody's perfect, by the way, folks. I just want to let you know, nobody's perfect. Nobody has everything running right. There are obstacles everyone has faced. And the people you hear from on podcasts like Dobbs, people that have surmounted that and succeeded and risen to the top of their field. So yeah, it's getting way beyond that, and just, it's really that push. And for me, it's the vision map and putting it together that has helped me catapult that. And I'm not sure if I answered the rest of your question or not, but I know I've answered
what
part
is
of
the
it.
biggest misconcept about what it is you do? Because I think
I don't know.
Oftentimes, for any of us, people don't really get what it is we do, and they think it's this, but it's actually that.
When people hear my podcast, my fans, my audience, they didn't know to expect this. They just didn't know. And when they get hooked, and it's like, it's helping them, because like a diamond shines. Why? Because of facets. There's all these areas that are polished and cut, and when you put it in light or anywhere, it just glitters. Well, you and I, we do podcasts. It's not just one facet that just takes care of everything. It's this, it's that, it's so many different things. And in my show, I try to give a variety. We talk about tech, with social media, public relations, HR. We talk about leadership. We talk about so many things to give people all that they need to know. So once people find out about my show and what I do, it changes them, because it's like, oh, I didn't know this stuff was available. This is like, it's like a kid in a candy store, for the first time. So I find that, and that's the most gratifying thing for me. I believe that that's probably what you may find as well, but I just love it when I find that I can help people, because that's what it's all about. I'm at the point of my life, like I was saying earlier, I just give and give and give. My whole thing is just about helping, and it just comes back. I don't even have to think about it, which is very unique, folks. Never think about the income, because it just comes because I help so much. It's a very interesting level where I'm at, and it's taken me years to get there, and I love it.
I believe that as leaders, I've described leadership in many ways, and one of the ways that I like to describe it is that leadership is influence. It's, so people say, well, I'm not a leader, I'm not a CEO. I'm like, okay, do you have children? Yes, you're a leader. Do you have friends? Yes, you're a leader. We're all leading in some way. We're leading somebody because we have influence and impact. So what I want to ask you, Tony, is who's somebody who has had dramatic influence on your life, somebody we may not know, somebody we may not be familiar with, maybe somebody we not even would even consider as an impact on you. Who's somebody who had an impact on you, why and how?
Wow, that's a question I really have to ponder and think about. I've had so many people give me impact. I started in marketing, I think, Al Reese and Jack Trout with the book Battle, the Positioning for the Mind, and the 20 Immutable Laws of Marketing, or is it 22? I don't remember anymore.
Yeah.
There's these great books on marketing and getting the word out there that have really changed me. And I know this sounds, I don't want to go back to religion all the time, but just studying the world religions and what people have done in adversities and where they've gone and how they've stood up to no matter what, and torture or whatever, or death, and still stuck with their faith. It's very interesting, some of the martyrs, and I learned from them. I learned from everything. So I read so much, but these days I talk so much and I get mentored a couple hours a week. But I would say probably some of the things I've already mentioned are the most profound was, of course, the Beach Money by Jordan Adler. That's really helped a lot. The Stephen Covey's good, Anthony Robbins, John Lee Dumas, Lewis Howes. I've listened to their podcast. Each one has given such a depth, and I'm like a sponge in that. When I check out their shows, I check out their podcast, I check out who they're interviewing, and I just absorb. And if I'm
thinking more of somebody who is very personal to you that we would never know. So I never met your Aunt Sally, and maybe she had an impact on you. That's what we're talking about, rather than the Tony Robbins who everybody knows.
I would probably say my wife. We've been together 28 years, as we've mentioned. Most people in the audience, your audience, don't know her. I talk about her here and there in my audience. She's just very. She is my ground. She completes me, and I know may sound weird to some people, but when we started dating some 20 something years ago, we started talking about spirits, spiritual history, man, ethical nature of man, and we have not yet finished that conversation, Dov.
That's good.
So it just worked out for me that is my person. That is my go-to. That just helps when, I'm Italian. I go half full, and sometimes I just shoot out of the gate. And she doesn't stop things, but she kind of gives the more pragmatic point of view. And it works. It just works really well.
What would you say is the number? Go ahead, Joe.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when that question is asked, I know Dov gets this a lot. Like sometimes people just answer the names, and on one hand, I'm sitting there listening to him, I was like, okay, those are the names. But I remember not that long ago, in my beginning, so I can only imagine for some people, I don't feel that old. Then maybe I'm getting that. The gray hairs are starting to kick in. But like I remember starting that, there was only a few people like that you could know about and get access to, and maybe get some tapes. And that mentorship world, that digital remote mentorship, has opened up in such a extreme way that, the laundry list though is an actual list. You actually probably listened to all those people in the last week, and they have had impact and effect on your life. And I just wanted to point that out because it is such a powerful thing. And we forget that if you don't have access to direct mentorship, which I totally recommend if you can, because there is a different level there, but tap into this, find people you connect to that have a similar vision, take some of those lists and start checking them out, and find that those people that can influence you in a way that you are a better leader, that you are more inspired to carry out your mission, because it's available. It hasn't been, that's a relatively new thing. And we forget that.
What about you, Joel? Who's somebody who has had massive impact on you or shifted the direction of your leadership, who we might not think of, or we might not assume has done that for you?
Yeah, it's like every time you ask this question, I think of it. So I'm already ready. It's like the question is easy. It's my mom. She was kind of she came from a very bad place. Like she did not have a stable family in any stretch of imagination. And she came up with these things to raise us because she didn't want us to go through what she went through. And so there's just so many life lessons that came through just her teachings, like that's because she had to figure it out. And I remember one she told me very early, she's like, one of the things I had to figure out that I didn't know, because there was no one to help me. Nobody gave me a good example of what to be. I tried to do what everybody thought would be like, I'll just give the child whatever they want and they'll be happy, right? And I found you becoming more and more miserable. And so I had to do something. And so she kept doing these structures where what a child wants isn't necessarily what's going to make them happy, that there is a security need of being there to protect them and show them that there's guidance. And things like that always stuck to me. Like that's how I do my marketing. That's how I do my consulting. That's how I do every facet of my life. And I'm just very grateful to have that, especially as a parent, because I used it years before I was ever a parent. But when I was a parent, I was like, oh, that makes sense. I'm going to tell them the exact same thing,
How do you know when you've gotten older? When you start channeling your mom or dad. Same people who pissed you off when you were a kid, and now you are now making their way out of your mouth.
Yeah. It's true.
I actually had one of those.
I agree on the mom. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And by the way,
where I said something, I was like, that was my dad. And I was like, just delete that. We're going again.
One last person that did influence me and it helped me be who I am today in podcasting is I got a mentor, as Joel mentioned. Everyone, you need a mentor, period. Everyone, you need a mentor. I get mentored a couple hours a week. I got a world-class, well-known radio show host, Michael Benner, to mentor me when I started, and he gave me the tips and he gave me advice, and that's how I wound up. To get the show I have now is, so you do need somebody to get to where you're going. Yeah, you can figure everything out. You could go build that car in your garage yourself, perhaps, or you could just go get a mentor and do it a lot faster.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, is that, it's great that you listen to this show or you listen to Tony's shows or anybody's shows. They're all wonderful, they're all terrific, and I highly recommend them. But the truth is, and I say this to you all the time, who gives a crap if you're not doing anything with it, right? So information is worth the hole in the donut. Transformation comes from application, and application comes from accountability. And there is no accountability with a podcast. I'm not going to knock on your door on Tuesday and go, did you do it? You naughty boy. Somebody's going to get outing. No, I'm not going to do that. So having a mentor, a coach, a guide, a therapist, a person who can help you work through your stuff, get over your own hump, deal with the crap that you've got in the way, dismantle the unhealthy beliefs, show you a path that they've been on, that is beyond valuable. And whatever you pay for a good mentor, it was probably about 100 times more valuable if you use it. If. That's the big if, and that's on you. But I fully agree with Joel and Tony on this. You gotta get somebody to help you.
Absolutely.
We're coming to the end, Tony. And before we do, I want to ask you a couple of quick fire questions. First of all, what's a guilty pleasure for Tony?
Chocolate. Maybe once a week, maybe not. That's about it. I drink multiple. I'm Italian, so I believe I have a right to drink coffee. I'll drink 6, 7, 8 cups a day. That's just my thing. And that's really about it. My life has changed. It's gotten more and more simple. So the guilty pleasures aren't there. I don't even go into sweet tooth too much, or desserts or pastries. I'm just not into it. I just really focus on my show, and I spend every spare moment I can to promote and market my show. That's just really how I've gotten it so big. And I wanted to drop, I know you have some questions, but I wanted to drop one simple, hopefully leadership gem bombshell to the audience that you didn't expect.
Absolutely.
And I'll try to say it really, really fast. By the vision map, we didn't finish, just so you know, there's more steps. But the one thing I found on leadership, because I've worked in corporate America, though fortunately I haven't been in corporate America for at least a dozen years. I've been in good companies, I've been in bad companies. I've run teams up to 200 plus people. And I found that the biggest thing, which I talk about in the vision map, folks, I talk a lot about this. What makes a good leader is when you include people. You tell them your vision, your purpose, your objective. I've been in companies. It's not a poker game. The CEO is like holding the cards, going, "I'm not going to tell you what I have." No, just go do your work, I pay you. And he doesn't tell people what's going on, and they'll leave and go somewhere else. I know somebody that could make nearly double. I know too many people that can make nearly double what they make, but they won't. They love the company they're in. Why? Because they're included in stuff. They know where the company is going. They get informed. Sometimes the company executives even ask them for their opinion. They feel such a part of it. When you're a part of it, guys, there's the basic of leadership. It's just that simple. Include people, and you will find your company zooms a lot faster. I hope you don't mind. I just wanted to drop that in there.
Don't mind at all. We fully agree. We talk about it all the time, is that you can't create loyalty with people who feel like they're on the outside. And the only way to have them come inside is through transparency and inclusion. So what does that mean? Here's what we are struggling with as a company. You are our most valuable assets. That's not what we say. That's the truth. So tell us. Multiple minds are better than one. Tell us what you see. Oh, never thought about that. That's great. Wonderful. Now they want to be behind that. So you're absolutely right. We definitely big on all that. So
I know you talk about it, but I just wanted
no,
to
but
say,
I think it's important.
It's
that you
so
relate
great.
It. Yeah, I think it's important that you've relayed it. And that's my point, is not to say that we talk about it, but that you've relayed it. I think it's important because it needs to be said again and again, particularly for those of us, not unlike Joel, who are of a certain age, because we were brought up with the mentality of, as you said, like, business and leadership is poker. You keep your cards close to your chest. Well, if you do that, you're going to be out of business very fast today. It worked fabulously 25 years ago. It works like a sinkhole today. Not a good idea. Absolutely. So as we finish up the show, Tony, I would love for you to share with our listeners and our viewers again where they can find out more about you and all your wonderful resources.
Thank you again for that, Dov. I appreciate it. Guys, you can find me at Tony, that's Tony, DUrso.com. Everything is there. My Vision Map book, access to my podcasts, links to my social media, what I'm doing. You get a couple of pictures of me when I was a kid. You find out about my early days, things like that. It's all there at TonyDUrso.com. Please check it out. Check out a show. I love hearing how you like it, what you'd like to see. If there's something you want to hear or something you want to know more about, I'm happy to bring that type of a guest on to give you that information. So I love hearing, I do this for you, for the audience. So communicate to me, let me know. And because I'm here, because together we're going to help you become more successful. That's the way I look at it. My tagline is move on your journey to success.
Fabulous. And is there any last words you'd like to add there, Joel?
No, again, a great show. I love talking about the visions, and even, so many people underestimate the value of a plan. Any plan is so much better than having no plan to go after your vision or how to get it on paper or how to use it. So if you're waiting for the perfect vision before you get this going, just go get a vision, go get in there and make it happen. Because that's where it happens. That's where you get to work and actually know where you're headed.
And will you tell everybody where they can find out more about you, Joel, please?
Yeah, the cleanest place right now is to find joelbauer.com. Otherwise, I'm giving you a list of 7 companies, and that's not helpful for anybody. So joelbauer.com, all my latest projects are there, and you can find out more or reach out to me directly.
Can you spell it?
Joel, Joel, Bauer, BOWER.com.
Fabulous. And again, you can find out more about Tony by going to Tony, DUrso.com. Thank you, Tony DUrso. We really appreciate you being here today. Thank you for all that you've shared. And for you, dear listener, remember that you can hang out with other conscious leaders and chat about this episode or any past episodes in our Facebook and LinkedIn groups. Just look for the Leadership and Loyalty Podcast. And when you're ready to develop the leadership and loyalty inside of your organization, then come talk to us at fullmontyleadership.com. Find out more about how you can hire me as a speaker or strategist for your organization. Simply go to fullmontyleadership.com/consulting or fullmontyleadership.com/speaking. Full Monty Leadership, we provide you with the leadership skills to rekindle and amplify the hidden loyalty assets inside of your organization by tapping into purpose. fullmontyleadership.com, because you can't outsource authenticity. I want to thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. Till next time, stay curious, my friends. Stay curious about how to build a deep, powerful vision of where you're going so that you can move forward and look back knowing what you've got to do next. I'm Dov Baron, and I'm here to assist you tapping into your deep greatness to reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership impact. And I am out. And for you, dear listener, remember that you can hang out with other conscious leaders and chat about this episode or any past episodes in our Facebook and LinkedIn groups. Just look for the Leadership and Loyalty podcast. And when you're ready to develop the leadership and loyalty inside of your organization, then come talk to us at fullmontyleadership.com. Find out more about how you can hire me as a speaker or strategist for your organization. Simply go to fullmontyleadership.com/consulting or fullmontyleadership.com/speaking. Full Monty Leadership, we provide you with the leadership skills to rekindle and amplify the hidden loyalty assets inside of your organization by tapping into purpose. fullmontyleadership.com, because you can't outsource authenticity. I want to thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. Till next time, stay curious, my friends. Stay curious about how to build a deep, powerful vision of where you're going so that you can move forward and look back knowing what you've got to do next. I'm Dov Baron, and I'm here to assist you tapping into your deep greatness to reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership impact. And I am out.